The secret battle for planet Earth reaches a climax as the White Hats and the remaining Black Hats fight for control of the impending Black Swan financial event. Sources in Asian secret societies and Western military intelligence services say that no new system will be possible until the entire gang is eliminated. For their part, the Black Hats are trying to both eliminate opponents and disguise their reboot of the financial system with bribes. Despite this, the evidence of an impending financial anomaly is incontrovertible. First, last Sunday, June 9, 2024, Saudi Arabia terminated a 50-year petrodollar deal. This deal was struck after U.S. President Richard Nixon excluded the U.S. dollar from the gold standard in 1971, forcing the rest of the world to buy U.S. dollars. Now Saudi Arabia has joined the Chinese-dominated central bank's project to create a digital currency based on the Chinese electronic yuan code. Thus, the American corporation lost the power struggle in Saudi Arabia, which resulted in the death of at least 10 princes. The missile attack that damaged the aircraft carrier Eisenhower also contributed to the corporation's loss of control over the oil market. The Houthi forces behind the attack say the unprecedented shelling by Yemeni troops marks the end of American military dominance of the seas and represents an important geopolitical argument in favor of the American empire. In a sign that the Russians may be involved, President Vladimir Putin said, "Russia can supply long-range missiles to countries that can hit sensitive targets of countries supplying such weapons to Ukraine." Russia has also sent nuclear submarines and ships to Cuba. Sources in the Russian FSB say, the majority of the Russian people want to contain the United States by repeating the Cuban Missile Crisis. Immediately after that, the US president turned 180 degrees and said, the United States does not support the idea of using American weapons to attack Moscow or the Kremlin. The United States is reacting to this defeat the same way the Japanese reacted to the loss of 4 aircraft carriers in the Battle of Midway. They are hiding the truth from the public. In other words, the largest U.S. military defeat since Vietnam has been massively hushed up. One sign that the US knows that its control over global finances is over is that the US Supreme Court has given the green light to 40 U.S. states that want to issue their own currencies backed by gold and silver. The court ruled, the United States has a dual banking system consisting of parallel federal and federal banking systems. This dual system allows private banks to choose whether they want a license from the federal government or from the state government. That's why in just 6 weeks, the U.S. banks on the Federal Reserve Board have closed 79 branches, bringing the total number to over 400 in 2024. The fall of the Federal Reserve Board and its American corporation is the reason that the secret war over what should take its place has intensified. One of the factions is the Gesera Group, whose plans, as David Wilcock reports on his Telegram channel, are as follows. The Gesera Global Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act was adopted for implementation by all 209 sovereign states of the world in accordance with the Paris Agreement on Climate Change signed in 2015, starting with the Restored Republic of the United States, known as the NASARA National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. NASARA cancels all credit cards, mortgages, and other bank debts incurred as a result of illegal banking and government activities. Many people call it the Jubilee Year, or a complete debt write-off. Repeals the federal income tax in the United States. Establishes a fixed tax rate of 17% on essential goods that are not essential items, which represent only sales tax revenues for the government. Abolishes the IRS tax service by transferring IRS employees to the U.S. Treasury Department. Establishes the constitutional right to all courts and court cases in the Republic of the United States of America. The United States of America has been restored. Transfers all judges and lawyers to constitutional law. Removes all agents of the dark clique, administration officials, and all members of the US Congress from their posts due to their constant unconstitutional actions. However, Pentagon sources report a rosy note from the United States, ready to spread so that the US economy can weather the storm caused by the fall in the US dollar. It is backed by gold and confiscated assets such as the Vatican, as well as European and British royals whose assets have been confiscated. It is also backed by gold from Taiwan and gold borrowed from the Chinese elders of the Philippines, who own 90% of the world's gold, to celebrate the anniversary and pay off debts around the world. Meanwhile, the heads of business operations in the current financial system state. About 135 countries and currency unions representing 98% of global GDP are studying the digital currencies of central banks CBDC. The head of MI6 states that the plan is to combine all paper and cryptocurrencies into a single secure electronic unit using the exchange rate mechanism, and then simply hedge all the various balances on the new unit. Similar to the introduction of the euro, the new currency is called the sovereign. Japanese right-wing extremists close to the emperor add that under this system, all current cryptocurrencies will be destroyed. For their part, the White Dragon Society and its allies are seeking to return control of the financial system to the elected representatives of the people and their civil servants. The Black Hats are also making their move. Do you remember how they used King Charles 6 months, 6 weeks and 6 days after Queen Elizabeth left? By issuing banknotes with Charles's image, the group, which includes former MI6 chief John Scarlett, hopes to bribe enough people to maintain control. This group also includes the Rockefellers, Barack Obama, Hitler, and others. The current head of MI6 states, "The problem for us is this pseudo-dictatorship of the DVD coming from a body of the London administration called the Cabinet, so we need to keep working to turn over Simon Case, but ideally Sir John Scarlett and, eventually, you would oppose the DVD, and it will require a lot of work in the background." Simon Case seems to have transformed under the leadership of MI5, but the other will need additional kinetic support. A sign that King Charles's forgery is being exposed is an article on the front page of the National Examiner magazine dated May 20th, which said, "The dying King Charles is planning his own funeral." He even looks dead in the photo. In addition, it is widely known that Charles participated in the sacrifice of his daughter-in-law Catherine, Princess of Wales. Now the story is developing with headlines like "Maybe she will never come back, as cancer may prevent her from returning to the royal role." According to MI6, the key to overthrowing this group is likely to be the case of Madeleine McCann. The fight is in full swing, and it looks like the World Health Organization, Israel, etc. will soon fall. Now the WHO and WEF have been declared terrorist organizations by the Florida Republican District Assembly. In turn, Oklahoma will not comply with the mandates of the World Health Organization, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum in accordance with the law signed by Governor Kevin Stitt. In addition, Anthony Fauci, the American cocktail czar, is being publicly roasted. Fauci admitted that he was the one who invented the COVID rules, which provide, among other things, a 6-foot social distance and child protection. The guy sitting behind Fauci at the televised hearings is now going viral. We can understand why. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of the House of Representatives, spoke on behalf of the majority of Americans last week when she said Fauci should be tried for crimes against humanity. Google's management will also have to stand trial for censorship of the truth. One of the signs that Google is still under control is the censorship of Google Translate. As an example, they translated it this way: "The rulers who are on 4 continents with dark forces do not want to give up. Their plan is getting stronger and stronger." Each baptized person has a slave number, which they have written down by the dark forces in repetitions of the phrase "I am a young man." In another example, Google incorrectly translated an email from Polish activists saying that their CitizenGo Freedom bus was blocked in the middle of a street in Geneva and surrounded by police. The police informed us that they had received a call from the Unsecurity Directorate that a bus was running through the city spreading propaganda and that it needed to be controlled. They were afraid of our message and would do everything possible to silence us. So, I'm wondering, what are you so afraid of? When I typed this Polish information into Google Translate, only the repetition of the words "I am a scientist, I am a scientist" returned. This group is in Geneva to protest against the attempt to establish a worldwide totalitarian dictatorship, using the pandemic as an excuse. As a sign that the Swiss are turning away from these medical adventurers, Switzerland has become the first country in the world to ban mammography. Screening has also been suspended in parts of Canada, Italy, Scotland, and Australia. It has been found that 50 to 60% of positive results are false. Of course, there is still a huge nest of evil that needs to be destroyed. By joining unilateral anti-Russian sanctions, Switzerland has lost its neutrality, the Russian media write. Vladimir Zelensky is trying to organize a major summit on Ukraine in Switzerland next weekend. The plans are doomed to fail. He sent out invitations to 160 countries, but only 70 responded, and most of them send delegations with lower representation. President Joe Biden, Chinese President Xi Jinping, heads of state of India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, etc. Everyone will be absent. Knowledge about evil and corruption in Ukraine is becoming more widespread. Most recently, Zelensky was criticized for allegedly spending $200 million to buy his company Film Heritage Inc., a luxury 5-star hotel, casino and resort. In a desperate attempt to stay in power, the Ukrainian government has compiled a list of enemies, adding some members of the U.S. Congress and some American citizens to it. The list includes organizations such as Codapink and Rage Against the War Machine, the Cato Institute, the Heritage Foundation and Turning Point USA. The list also includes Daily Wire presenters such as Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles, linguist Noam Chomsky, economist Jeffrey D. Sachs, Drive, Ron Paul and RFK Jr. The list also includes dozens of current American politicians, such as Senators J.D. Vance of Ohio, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Eric Schmidt of Missouri, as well as former President Donald Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and deputies Bob Good of Virginia, Jim Jordan, Ohio State and Jim Banks, Florida State. Zelensky won't last long. One of his key supporters, French President Emmanuel Macron Rothschild, called a general election after his party was defeated in the EU elections. Goodbye, Macron Rothschild. The military tribunals are already waiting for you. Another supporter has also been overthrown, as evidenced by this news. News about the cause of the fall. Violation. Belgium's political landscape was rocked today when Prime Minister Alexander De Croo announced his resignation following the unexpected rise of right-wing parties in the EU elections. Israel will be next. The criminal nature of Israeli control over the US political system is currently being revealed in all directions. In the latest article, Thomas Massie, a member of the House of Representatives, explains that every Republican member of Congress has an IPAC nanny who helps influence the vote in favor of Israel. A sign of how extreme and evil this support is. Israel has the right to try to strike at these civilians, U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says of U.S. policy toward Gaza, Israel will not last long. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan told the Council of Foreign Ministers of the D-8 group that there is no doubt that those who carried out the massacre in Gaza will eventually be brought to justice. Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan and Turkey are represented in the organization with a total population of 1.2 billion people and a gross domestic product of up to $5 trillion. In addition, Iranian sources have confirmed to us that they do not allow themselves to get carried away with fomenting a nuclear holocaust by invading Israel. Today, the Iranian Security Council rejected the candidacy of citizen Ahmadinejad for the post of President of Iran. Ahmadinejad has long been a supporter of the Battle of Armageddon, an Iranian source tells us. Instead, war crimes tribunals will be waiting for them. Rats escape from Benjamin Netanyahu's ship. War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz, former Defense Minister and Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces Gadi Eisenkot, and Yahail Tropper, a member of the Knesset and a close confidant of Gantz, have just exited the Netanyahu regime. Soon the truth will be known to everyone. For example, at the funeral of the great Rabbi Simeon ben Judah in 1869, Rabbi Rehorn delivered the following speech. Thanks to the terrible power of our international banks, we have dragged Christians into numerous wars. Wars have a special value for us because Christians sacrifice each other, giving us more space. More than 100 million Christians have been wiped off the face of the earth as a result of wars, and this is not the end. The re-education of the people will follow the overthrow of the Hazar group. The truth is in the process of freeing the sheep. An example of what free people are doing rather than waging senseless wars is the massive tree planting movement, which has its roots in Africa. Thousands of farmers and women are trading their barren fields for lush, diverse forest gardens that feed their families, improve the soil and increase the number of trees. It is part of the African Union's Great Green Wall Initiative, an 8,000-kilometer vegetation barrier created to prevent encroachment into the desert. According to The Guardian, it will be the largest natural structure on the planet. This is just a brief overview of what people will do if they are allowed to plan their own future, and not be swept into oblivion by Satanists. As soon as the West is cured of its infection, it will make up for all the evil done in its name.